Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Well, good evening to you out there and welcome to another episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name is Chioma Kalu. Now, you see, after nearly a decade of silence, history is returning to Nigeria's classrooms. Now, the federal government has announced that the subject will once again be taught in basic schools beginning from this academic session. Officials say the move is meant to help young Nigerians understand their heritage, national heroes, and the country's journey through time. It is a reverse many have long demanded, following years of criticism that removing history created a generation disconnected from its roots. But you see, as the celebration rolls in, so has the questions, right? Do we have the teachers, the textbooks, and resources to make this policy work? How do we ensure that what is taught is even accurate, is balanced, or even, inclusive of Nigeria's diverse narratives? And most importantly, will this return of history to the classroom strengthen national unity or simply become another policy announced but poorly implemented? We've been talking about the issue of implementation on this table. Anyway, remember, Ways is all about you, as you are the why in Ways. So be a part of this conversation every single day and add your voice to the discussions. Head on now to YouTube at Official Upgrade TV. Hit that subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. When I open my phone lines, I would really want to hear your insights on this particular topic because I dare say it touches every one of us. If you don't have a kid, even you as a person, right? Now, as we always do on this show, we have a quote for each day. So for today, here's your quote. It says, history is who we are and why we are the way we are. I'll say it again. History is who we are, why we are the way we are. It was said by David McCullough. Now, we'll go into this much later, but let's go on a break first. And when I come back, I'll take you through my news interest for the day. Don't go. Across the country. At its 152nd meeting production, as food security and cut farmers' costs ahead of the 2025 dry season farming. Now, a source at the meeting disclosed that the issue was not even contained in the agenda this time around, dashing expectations that it would feature prominently. President Bola Tinubu, like we saw in the news over the recent weeks, restated his commitment to the establishment of state police, describing its creation as inevitable in the face of the mounting insecurity. Now, this particular case, I don't know who to believe now. I think it was 3 weeks ago, we saw the situation where, a lot of Nigerian people died in the river. They were trying to escape banditry, of course, and the boats they got into capsized. And, after that incident, the president made a statement. He said, now the creation of state police has become inevitable because, these people have to protect themselves and all of that, be able to fight these criminals ravaging the community now. But now coming to today, we're seeing that the NEC meeting, they didn't even see it as something to talk about on their agenda after they had previously stepped it down. So which one are we going by? Right? State police is important, but I have a particular concern that it doesn't get hijacked, you know, and politics just gets into it. So, well, I hope this is sorted out quickly, because the Nigerian people, especially those in the north, they're going through it. They're going through a lot of things, and it needs to be curbed immediately. Now, going to my second story of interest, it says Senate urges FCT doctors to end strike, vows swift action on demand. Now, the Senate Committee on Federal Capital Territory, Area Councils, and the Ancillary Matters has appealed to the striking resident doctors in the FCT to suspend their ongoing industrial action, pledging to intervene directly with the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, to address their grievances. Now, during an emergency meeting held yesterday with leaders of the FCT chapter of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, the committee, led by its chairman, Senator David Jim Kuta, Taraba South, acknowledged the legitimacy of the doctors' concerns and promised immediate engagement with relevant authorities. Now, Jim Kuta said, "We are pleading with you, return to work and give us the opportunity to mediate. I will personally take up this matter with the minister tomorrow. Our people are suffering. We must act swiftly." Now, the lawmaker stressed that the ongoing strike is taking a severe toll on patients, many of whom rely solely on public health care facilities in the capital. He commended the doctors for their patriotism in remaining in the country despite the worsening conditions, and acknowledged that their demands are not selfish but aimed at strengthening the nation's crumbling health system. I like that he started off by, you know, recognizing the good work they do and commending them for being still being around, because the rate of brain drain we're seeing in that particular sector is alarming. And it's so sad that right now we're still dealing with this. Why do you always have to wait for the doctors to go on strike? Why do you always have to wait for them to, you know, go into that industrial action before you start calling for peace talks? These people already put out their demands, and you know that you are not the one that suffers the brunt of the whole strike. It is the patients in the hospitals, right? I'm talking about the lawmaker speaking now, and of course, the people like him, those are the hem of affairs that would always, you know, leave the country to seek better health care. The patients in Nigeria, most of them can't afford it. So they have to be in the Nigerian hospitals. Now, what happens to them when you have refused to grant the demands of these doctors? And now the doctors take to the streets. Why do we always have to get there? Like I asked my guest yesterday, why? I don't think, you know, he made a statement and he said, oh, industrial action, strikes, protests is the language the Nigerian government understands. And I asked him, I said, I don't think at this point this is a language we understand, because it's now a situation of do your worst. You see people come out and say, oh, we're going to go on, we're going to protest, we're going to go on strike if this is not done. And the government will wait till like maybe the night before or something, or maybe when they have gone on the strike and they're beginning to see the repercussions, now they start calling for peace talks, deliberation. Oh, don't worry, go back to work. We're going to... That's the problem. That's the problem. We make fake promises. We make empty promises. And then implementing, fulfilling these promises becomes the issue, right? Look at ASU, still demanding the same thing since 2009. NLC, on and off every time they're going on strike because of these same demands. And now doctors are at it again. It doesn't make any sense. Just yesterday we saw that, but yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't know, we saw SANU and NASU threatening to go on strike too because their own demands are not met. It doesn't make any sense. We can't keep living like this as a nation. We need to do something. And the doctors are essential workers. We can't afford to gamble with their demands, because these people, we need them. And like I mentioned earlier, we have brain drain in an alarming rate in this Nigeria. And we're complaining, oh, why don't you stay and strengthen your own people and, you know, build your own nation? But look at the basic needs that they want, what they're asking for, you're not giving them. Who will stay in that situation? Anyway, make with this news whatever you want to make out of it. But lastly, on the news, my news of interest is a comment by our FCT dearest Minister Wike. You know, the Minister of the FCT, Minister Wike, Nyesom Wike. He said, Nigerians are lucky. Tinubu is tolerant of criticisms. Now, the news has it that the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has said Nigerians must count themselves lucky to have a leader like President Bola Tinubu, whom he described as tolerant of criticisms. Now, Wike said it is only in Nigeria that a citizen will go on social media to describe the president as a criminal, expecting no consequences. The minister, who spoke in Abuja on Thursday during the flag-off of the arterial road in number 1 in Wuye, Abuja, of course, was alluding to a recent social media post by an activist, you know, ex-presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, who described Tinubu as a criminal. Wike said, this is a country where somebody on social media will say Mr. President is a criminal. Nothing will happen. Wike said, you say all sorts of things you want to say, nothing will happen. No matter how you see people criticize Trump, have you ever seen any American on social media or in public say our president is a criminal? Have you heard that? But in here, anybody can wake up in the morning and abuse the president, and we are happy. You are lucky to have a president who believes in the rule of law. You are lucky. Continue to be lucky. These are those you will meet. There are those you will meet that you won't be lucky again. That's what Wike said. He's making reference to Showore's tweet. And that tweet was due to, I think we tweeted this on Monday. Showore tweeted calling Tinubu a criminal after Tinubu's video that was made in Brazil. Tinubu went to Brazil in August. And in his speech in Brazil, he said Nigeria is corruption-free. There's no corruption in Nigeria. And Showore took to his Twitter page, his X page now, and he addressed the president as this criminal. And, you know, Wike is saying, oh, you are very lucky that this man is not reacting. But then again, I understand you shouldn't call your president that. But my point is, I would always go back to this over and over again. In June 12th, during the president's speech, he said he's open to criticism. He said, in fact, when you call him names, he will stand on democracy to defend your rights. That's what he said. So I don't know why everybody is fighting the president's battle. DSS is suing Showore. Allow the person that was called names to be the one to take up the fight. I don't know why we're doing this. So Wike is saying people should be careful because you might not get lucky next time. Anyway, I think still part of that news was when he addressed the rumors of people saying he had a heart attack. And in his words, he said, I will be there to write your condolence. Wike always has his way with words. Anyway, guys, that's all the story I have that caught my interest in the newspapers today. We're going to go on a short break. And when we come back, we're going to dive straight into our topic of interest, where we're talking about the return of history to the classrooms and if it's another policy or just a political rant. Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table, to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Five Nigerian foods with more fiber than beans. In Nigeria, beans are widely celebrated as one of the healthiest staple foods that is rich in fiber, protein, and essential minerals. But what if we told you there are Nigerian foods that actually pack more fiber than beans? While beans remain an excellent source of nutrients, several local foods contain higher fiber content and offer unique health benefits you may be missing out on. For people that don't like beans, that's not the only option on the table. There are plenty of high fiber Nigerian foods that can do even more for your digestive health, weight management, and heart wellness. Here are 5 Nigerian foods with more fiber than beans. Tiger nuts. Tiger nuts are small, crunchy tubers loaded with fiber. In fact, 30 grams of tiger nuts can contain up to 10 grams of fiber, more than beans provide in the same quantity. They are excellent for digestion, help control blood sugar, and double as a healthy snack. Ofada rice. Unlike polished white rice, ofada rice keeps its fiber-rich band layer intact. A cup of ofada rice provides about 7 grams of fiber compared to 5 grams in beans. It's also a slow digesting carbohydrate, making it ideal for people managing diabetes even with its unique smell. Garden egg. Garden eggs are not just low in calories, they are fiber powerhouses. Eating them raw or in stews provide more soluble fiber than beans, which helps with cholesterol control and weight management. Yam. Yam is a staple in Nigerian households and it provides up to 8 grams of fiber per serving. Roasted, boiled, or yam porridge is an easy way to increase daily fiber intake. Vegetables. Traditional Nigerian vegetables like pumpkin leaves and scent leaves are denser in fiber than beans per calorie. A plate of vegetable-rich soup can do wonders for digestion and overall health.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
All right, thank you so much for staying tuned. And if you're just joining us, tonight's discussion is centered on the policy returning history to classrooms. So we're asking, is this just a policy or it has become, part of politics? I want to hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending us an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. And my phone lines are open now. You can call me on 07025007749 and also on 07014242420. Now let's hear what you have to say. You see, the decision to bring back history in Nigeria's basic school curriculum has hailed, it's been hailed as overdue. People think it's been long overdue. For years, educators and cultural advocates warned that removing the subject left young Nigerians disconnected from their roots, their heroes, and the lessons of the past. Now, as history makes its return, expectations are very high. But so are the challenges. Do we have enough trained teachers? Do we have balanced content? I think I'm particular about the balanced content. And, the political will to make it count, So tonight, we're asking, will the return of history truly strengthen national identity and civil values? Or will it become another well-intentioned policy lost in poor implementation? And it took my time to find out the reason why it was removed at first. And the reason that was given was that, history as a standalone subject, it has become less relevant. So it was merged with social studies that had a little bit of history at the time. And, they argued that, it's going to kind of reduce the load on the curriculum, especially on the children. But I don't see that as a reason. History on its own can be a standalone subject. Anyway, to help us unpack this, I'm joined now by Dr. Peter Ogudoro, an educationist. Dr. Peter, thank you for joining me this evening.
Pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much. All right, as an educationist, I love the fact that you're on this show. How prepared, first of all, do you think schools are right now to teach history effectively at the basic level?
Well, this again is a reflection of the poverty of the policy making processes in our country, especially as those processes concern education. We have the tendency to put the cart before the horse almost all the time.
Yeah.
The next day we should start teaching without asking the question, do we have the manpower to execute it? Do we have the right leaders who are going to deploy resources to this particular discipline to ensure it's properly done? And have we promoted history as a discipline that is worth studying so that our children can sign up for it and study joyfully, knowing that the people who ignore where they are coming from are likely to be a people who may not even be sure of the direction in which they should move. Because in the absence of lessons that come from this, it's difficult for you to correct their past mistakes, which you probably have not even acknowledged because they are not sharing the past with the children who are going to manage the future. So it's a great idea. It was wrong for us not to have made it part of the disciplines that children are studying in school. And it's a welcome development for us to bring it back. But it is not correct to bring it back at a time when we are insisting that all the schools must start teaching it now, because if you do my kind of work as an educational reflector, you know that history has not been one of those popular subjects that young people go to university to study. So what we are going to find is that the people who will teach history as we bring it back are people who didn't study history, most of them, who will now just have to pick up books, read them up, and go to the classroom to try and teach. It will be a kind of situation where I think yesterday I was talking with the teacher who studied accounting, and he was telling me that he teaches biology.
Wow.
And I said, you teach biology? He said, yeah. Because they haven't got biology teachers in their school, and somebody just has to teach biology, and they trust the medium person, so they have to start teaching biology. So look forward to that kind of situation here, and at the end of the day, we are likely to present this poorly, because the people who are going to deliver it standing in classrooms are people who have not been prepared for the role they are going to be done. So that's the only worry that people like us who do education as a professional job.
Okay, I hear you. So while you support it, the timing is not very favorable. Right. But now I'm going to bring in the angle of a balanced content. So history is beautiful. History is everything that has happened in Nigeria. And it would also include the reasons these things happened. Now, there's a bit of bias, we're seeing these days, especially when it comes to politics, right? So how are we going to be able to ensure a balanced content, especially when the person appointed to teach the history has maybe someone else, maybe somebody won an election, for instance, and the person thinks, oh, this person should have won. How would the person be able to communicate this history to these children in a balanced way without introducing a bias or trying to get them to believing one side of the story?
Yeah, that's the point I was making when I was talking about lack of preparedness. Because what you are going to find is that people who will stand in classroom to teach history will be teachers who don't know the issues that apply to teaching history. And they are likely to introduce their own biases depending on the class they come from. So they might, in spite of what the syllabus directs, want to present history from the perspective of their ideological learning. And that will be a disturbance to our country. So it is very important that when you want to move in this kind of direction, you give yourself about 5 to 10 years to produce the right type of human resources by way of giving them the knowledge, skills, the right values, and ensuring that they have professional ethics that they are all committed to. And you give them incentive that is commensurate with the effort that you want them to make. So if the compensation package for people to go and learn history is not adequate, you won't find the best way moving in that direction. And that's where we are today. Of course, education generally is a very respected profession. Teachers are not respected in our country.
I agree.
The compensation package is scandalous.
Yes.
And even though subjects and the larger society now come to know as very essential, English language, mathematics, chemistry, physics, are not even getting the kind of compensation package that comes close to what can make them remain in the industry. Not to talk about history. So we are in a difficult place, but certainly we need to teach our children our history. If we don't know where we need to be, where we are coming from, the lessons that are in those mistakes we have made, and of course, even in our own triumph, so that we know the things we also can reinforce. It will be difficult for us to be able to start the kind of great future that all of us desire for Nigeria and for all as individual members of society.
Okay. So I'm glad we've come to the area of the teachers, because now, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of people don't even want to do the profession anymore because it's not a noble profession in Nigeria, so to speak. You rightly mentioned someone who studied accounting, teaching biology. That's erroneous. Anyway, so now teacher training, right? Sending them on trainings and all. It has become, oftentimes a weak link in the education system of Nigeria. So now, how can professional development ensure that this history is taught in a way that engages these young learners?
Well, I've been trying to make the point indirectly that when you want to promote an idea, and in this case, a discipline, a profession of teaching history, the smart thing to do is to incentivize young people to prefer it as what they can study when they go to Nevada. And you start early. So you can say, if they're going to study history, we will give you a bursary that will support their education, because you know you need the best minds to go in that direction. And in a country where many young people and their families are struggling to pay school fees for them to be in university, there are a lot of smart people who want to move in that direction and choose to stay as a profession and teaching as a career. We haven't done that, and we are hoping that as we resume school in September, we are going to be able to find in every secondary school in Nigeria. I think that we have been too ambitious there and very unrealistic. We will run into problems as we try to implement it.
So these problems that you say we'll run into, can you narrow the problems down to the children? The effects it's going to have on the children that would be at the receiving end of this new policy passed?
Well, you are going to find situations where children pose questions to people standing in classrooms and teaching them this, and they are not able to get appropriate answers. And when children are giving the wrong answers when it comes to those questions, you are actually creating a very big problem for our country, because history is unlike any other subject. The challenge you have with teaching it wrongly is giving a wrong impression of what happened and what didn't happen. And when children go into the future, where they're going to play leadership roles and contribute to national development with the idea that X is Y instead of X is X, you are likely to get them to think inappropriately, and that may not help our security. It may not help our cohesion, especially. And in the process, you might be doing something that comes across as reasonable, but unfortunately, there may be unintended consequences.
All right, we'll just go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're still talking about the reintroduction of history back to the basic education curriculum, right? And we're asking, is this just a mere policy or it's politics? You know, and I have Dr. Peter, an educationist with me, who is talking to us about it. Dr. Peter, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So now let's move away from the timing. Right, because yes, we've established that it's going to be a rush, really, introducing this back into the curriculum now in September. I mean, you just don't wake up and make these proclamations. The schools have to prepare for it, likewise the children, all right? But now, let's assume it was the right timing. What aspect of history do you think should be prioritized for children at this basic level? Do you think the pre-colonial traditions, the independence struggles, modern Nigeria, or, you know, local histories, basically?
Yeah, definitely our children should know what we were like before the colonial era. The children should know the processes that led to colonization of Nigeria, the effort nationalists made to resist it, how they were subdued, and for how long the colonialists were here, and then the various tribes and races in our country, the relationships they have had over the years, and our political development, the challenges we have had to try to live together despite our differences, and how we have had nationalists who over the years have demonstrated strong commitment to unity, even in our diversity. Because we shouldn't make the mistake of letting our children believe that everything about us begins and ends with conflict, quarrels, and absence of cohesion. That's not absolutely true, because even when it comes to football, we know that it has a way of bringing us together. That's part of our history. And we have done well over the years with respect to soccer. And that's part of our history. Our children should know about that, so that we don't get to a point where we think that in the absence of European championship, we don't know what sports means. Okay? Yes. So everything must be included, but we must also be sure that the people who are going to teach the history are sensitive to the things that divide us. And we have to train them on how to deal with those ones that are so sensitive that if they are not properly presented, they can create unintended consequences. So that's why, again, we have to go back to the issue of teacher training. Yeah. Not everyone can teach history. History is a discipline that has its own body of knowledge, has its own pedagogy. There's a way to take it. Most times in our country, we tend to think that merely having knowledge of, especially as it concerns the future, we're considered to keep that in line with scientific evidence in a way that will make students benefit from learning it. Unfortunately for us in Nigeria, we tend to prioritize mastery of the subject and obviously ignoring the pedagogy of the subject, which is why there's so much of rote learning going on in our country. And that's what you're likely to find even in the history. So children are just going to also consume quantities of knowledge, and you ask them questions to exams, they probably give you all the right answers. But what history is supposed to be doing for us is likely to be lost on the children, because the people teaching the history have not been taught much history. And as we always say, you cannot do what you do not have. So if you ask me, I would encourage the leaders of the education industry, more specifically the Minister of Education and the Commissioners of Education across the 13 states and whoever handles education at the political level in Abuja, to prioritize helping the people who are going to teach. And as a matter of fact, there's another subject that we teach to learn how to teach properly. As we speak, that's not where we are. Not up to 10% of Nigerian teachers are competent when it comes to the methodology for delivering the subject that we are giving them permission to do. And that's very problematic. And that's one of the reasons why, despite the fact that so many people have very robust academic credentials, we still continue to suffer in very significant and sensitive and important departments of our national life. Take electricity, for example. Nigeria is by now generating up to 300,000 megawatts of electricity. We are still struggling to even generate 2,000. And that's how come Nigeria and most of the other countries in Southern Africa described as, that part of the world. And that is not where we don't have engineers. We have people who are studying electrical engineering, electronic engineering, mechanical engineering, etc. But we are not yet able to teach them these disciplines in ways that will make them be able to defend their certificate in the new world.
All right. So, do you believe, right, that the reintroduction of history can help us bridge divides in Nigeria? Or, I mean, could it also now stir old tensions if controversial topics, like, we've mentioned earlier that there has to be balance to whatever content, the outline is going to carry. So do you think it's going to bridge that divide in Nigeria? Or if controversial topics like the Civil War, for instance, are included, do you think it will stir old tensions?
Well, you have to know that the history that will be taught at children,
yeah,
it's not going to be just what the individual that thinks is Nigeria's history. It has to be history as prescribed by relevant public education agencies. So you are not going to see in the curriculum for history much of the things that divide us, unless you leave the people in the hands of amateurs who will ignore what the government prescribes as what we need to call achievement attention to, and then start teaching what they think is Nigeria's history. But again, we must also be careful so that we don't get too selective in what we do. But even when it looks like some things are sensitive, it's still important that if we get the right teacher to stand in classrooms and teach Nigeria's history, those topics that come across as sensitive can be delivered masterfully. And even when inherently you find areas where we have disagreed as tribes and races in Nigeria, because masters of the subject who are competent with respect to the pedagogy of teaching history are the ones standing in classrooms to teach you, we are not going to run into that challenge that we are anticipating.
Oh, sir. I mean, in Nigeria, we've seen policies launched, with great fanfare, only for it to collapse within a few years. So now, in this case, what systems of accountability should be put in place to ensure that this reintroduction is going to be sustained?
Can you repeat that?
So I said we've seen policies in Nigeria, with great cheers. Everybody is celebrating policies made or launched. And then within a few years, we see those same policies collapse. And I'm asking, what systems do you think we can put in place to ensure there is accountability, to make sure that this reintroduction of history is sustained and not tomorrow somebody will wake up again like they did in 2007 to remove it?
Well, I'll be surprised if somebody, maybe the person of political education, who will come after this plan, arrives and says history is unessential and practice it. That would be very unfortunate. I think Nigeria has grown past that stage now, and people are also becoming more and more aware and rising up to the occasion. You sometimes also see people who publicly speak against some things that government agencies are doing. And so we are at that stage where all of us who know that Nigeria is the only country we can call our own, see it as our responsibility to continue to do advocacy that will enable us to sustain the teaching of history in our schools, and then get relevant public service agencies to play their roles properly. So that's the only way to go, and I have the same conviction that Nigeria at the moment has sufficient number of patriotic individuals who are willing to go the extra mile in this sector.
Finally, right? We know that teaching goes beyond the classrooms. I want to know, coming to the parents, what roles do you think they can play, in reinforcing Nigeria's history to these children, outside the classroom?
Well, it depends on the parents that we are talking about. Interestingly, many of the parents who have children in secondary school didn't experience much of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Somebody like, I thought that a parent who has children in school is finding that they're very strange, even though it looks like it's something that
Yeah.
is in Nigeria. So we probably, that's why we are talking about the need for us to, every time we want to make the policy, we should try to consult stakeholders and take enough time to promote that idea to the stakeholders who have to play background roles to support smooth implementation of this policy. Government agencies should have the humility to recognize that the business of education doesn't begin and end with what the teacher says in the classroom. Parents start the process and continue the process. They lay a foundation at home by telling stories, and their children go to school and hear the teacher's version of the stories and come back to challenge their parents regarding those versions. So if parents publish everything the teacher has told the child, we are back to square one. So we need to find a way to work out a framework, maybe patronizing PTA, so that we can carry parents along and also ensure that other stakeholders in the education industry, the education leaders like school owners, integrated. It's very standalone. We are aware that in the year 2025, with all the blessings, and where the average citizen is probably not earning up to $1,000 in a year. That's not great.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Ogudoro, educationalist, for being with us in this conversation. We hope to invite you some other time, sir. Have a good evening. All right, so you see, tonight's decision, right, to bring back history to Nigeria's basic schools is more than just a policy. It's an invitation to remember who we are, where we're coming from, and what binds us together, really. Education shapes culture, identity, and values. And if history in primary schools is taught well, it can cultivate a sense of pride and understanding, and even mutual respect amongst young Nigerians. But promises alone is not enough. Nigerians, we have to rise above this. What matters now is the action, the funding, the teachers' training, curriculum design, and, honest accountability for real. The stories we tell our children, they matter. The lessons they learn early, it will help shape how they see themselves and each other for decades to come. And I hope, like we've said, outside the classrooms, the parents also play their part, because like we said, it shapes who they are. It shapes their identity. All right? Thank you all for listening in on the conversation today. Before I go, do ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media engagements. And remember to like, share, comment, invite your friends and family to watch us and follow us. If you missed our quote earlier, here it is. It says, history is who we are and why we are the way we are. That was said by David McCullough. Now, my name is Chioma Kalu, and this has been Ways Prime Time. Have a great weekend and good night.